So now we have Dr. A. Ravichandran sir here for the next session. He is a distinguished professional with a stellar corporate and academic career. He holds a BTech from IIT Madras, MBA from IIM Ahmedabad, PhD from Aligarh Muslim University, and completed a program on mergers and acquisitions at the Wharton School with experience as CEO, general manager, and executive director in various companies. He now serves as a consultant for business transformation and corporate strategy. Dr. Ravichandran sir was associate professor at All India Management Association Center for Management Education. At that time, he wrote a book on strategic marketing management with Professor Rakesh Kurna as co-author. He was also invited to become TTK Chair Professor for Marketing Management by the IIT Madras in the year 2001. He taught several marketing management courses at the Silas School, IIT Mumbai, the British Council, C. and LIBA, Chennai. He has also received numerous awards such as Best Case Study Award and CIA Frost and Civilian Awards. Now, I request Director Sir, CFR, to present a book to Sir. Thank you, Sir.
In the next 40 minutes or so, I'm going to give you a very, a rough overview of what my book is all about. As Professor Velraj said in the morning, my book has got 211 learning points. Now, these learning points is what? Is something that I did well, something where I did not do well, both because of me and because of other people, and mistakes that nothing to do with me, but somebody else had done those mistakes. So all this together are the learnings. These learning took place over a period of 6 years. In my case, see, each system has got its own variations. In my case, one whole year was spent in identifying the right institution, right? And then, so this is what I am. I did my PhD at the age of 60. I took over 6 years. Out of 6 years, 3 to 4 years was productive time. 1 year, in my case, we had 12 courses, 12 conventional examinations. I wrote 3-hour examinations, 12 examinations, because I did my MBA long back. My topic has to do with the relationship between social sciences and business management. But then the learnings are quite common, whether it is engineering or technology or science or management or what have you, as you will see when we move forward. So again, to recapitulate, out of 6 years, 4 years was productive time. As per our system, 1 year of coursework of 12 conventional examinations, I don't know how many of you are familiar, 3 hours taking additional sheets, putting a Twain rule and then doing it, and using pen and paper, it's a task in itself. So it took me 1 whole year to do that. And then 3 years to do my PhD and get my degree. So 4 years. So 2 years was a whole lot of delay and wasted time. Now this is also very important. In my book, I touched on these delays as well. Now, my wish and prayer is that please learn from my experience and ensure see what is it that you can do with the delays. That is the intent. Learned over 200 lessons. Now, my book is like you take a searchlight and start from the beginning and keep moving and make light in the darkness until you reach in the end. That is how my book has been structured. Ross Perot is a famous businessman in Georgia state in the United States. So today morning, Professor Velraj talked about people who do the climb right when they are going to reach the apex, they give up. So that's exactly what this gentleman is also saying. People give up just when they are about to achieve success. See, this is how we start our life when we join a PhD program. It's all well set. But this is a reality. My guide gave me a comparison that PhD is a process where you start from Kanyakumari and reach Kolkata. not by taking a flight, not by taking a train, not even by cycling, but by walking. So when you walk, what happens is that you need to identify milestones. For instance, the first milestone was, in fact, I had a discipline in myself that every 3 months I must visit the Aligarh Muslim University, meet my guide, even though the institution required only 6 monthly visits. But it was my own self-discipline that I decided that I will go every 3 months to meet my supervisor. So my first milestone going from Kanyakumari to Chennai was to do my literature review. So today morning you heard about the importance of literature review. So you are told very nicely that these days you are not making new discoveries. So you are adding to discoveries already made. It's a big challenge. So most important thing is to do your literature review thoroughly and identify the scope for doing your research. If you don't identify your scope for research, most likely you're making mistakes in the choice of topic and so many other things, as we'll see as we go along. So please look at this as a winding path, a non-linear path. PhD, we start as if it's a structured path. It is a structured process, but it's also a creative process. There is a lot of scope, whether you're doing research in science or technology or social sciences or business, there's a lot of scope for innovation and creativity. In my case, I started with a topic and I added 2 more topics prior to doing the main topic. Mine was a highly quantitative research and I also did an exploratory research because Indian situation demanded that I do a unique exploratory research. I've written about all this in my book as to how, as you move forward, you make new discoveries. And as again Professor Velraj told at the beginning, you are the master of your craft. You got to have total ownership with what you're doing. Depending on somebody is good, but depending on somebody alone is not a good practice. It is never too late. You're all lucky. You look at me at 60, I started and completed my PhD. So all of you can smile and say, hey, look, I'm too young. Maybe I can take a year's holiday and come back and do it. Don't do that. I think, as you were told, Anna University is a place where you are made to do your PhD quite quickly. So you are all blessed people. You have somebody like Dr. Kumaresan who is so committed to research. Such experienced people are very rare to find. So you are already in a system. It is vital to choose an institution of good standing, which you have done. So that it's a good starting point. Pursuit of PhD is for those determined to walk a lonely path for a long period of time. There will be a lot of loneliness. There will be a lot of relationships, issues. A PhD scholar, please understand, PhD is the highest degree and a completely new process. When I started doing my PhD, I was already the CEO of a company. I had a lot of experience visiting so many countries. I had so much of data about China and India, among other things. So therefore I said, I'm going to compare China and India and make some big discoveries. Okay? My mindset was that I'm going to make some big discoveries. One of my mentors told me, PhD is a new process, focus and simplify. And PhD is the starting point of research. PhD is not the end point. PhD is the starting point of research. It was a humbling experience for me that it is foolhardy to imagine that I can talk about China, India and make all kinds of data comparisons and etc. etc. It took me a long time to give up that idea. So why I am dwelling on this, please pay attention to which topic you choose in doing your research. The process is strenuous, but the result is sweet. So it feels good. I am now a MR or an MS. It feels good when that becomes a DR or a DR-MS, isn't it? So therefore I think the result is sweet, but the process is strenuous. Progress is made by dedicating time on a daily basis. You see, the thing is, I showed you a winding path. It is never the way in which you conceive it when you start the process. It goes on changing. And you make new discoveries. So what do? It is important that you are in control of, when I am going from Kanyakumari to Chennai, that is my literature review. That is my first milestone. So I'm very clear that during this time, all I'm going to do is a healthy literature review. I really am not concerned about what happens after that. And then suppose it takes 3 to 6 months. What is in my control is what I do today, not what I do tomorrow. So I imposed a self-discipline on myself. I got up at 4:30 a.m. Those early hours are very healthy hours. The mind is fresh. There's no disturbance. Even when I was traveling, I was quite busy as a consultant. Even when I was traveling, I ensured that 2 hours in the morning are my time. Sometimes I may make small progress, sometimes I may make big progress, I still make progress. So daily progress, it all adds up. And progress is always not looking forward and seeing how much of task is in front of me. Progress is by looking back and saying, hey, look, I have built a building so much. So it de-stresses you. But if you look at the task in front of you, the stress builds up. So take control of what you do on that particular day and ensure every day you make progress. A sound mind and sound body are very important. In fact, there is an occasion called Classet in Anna University. There one of the senior lecturers told me how he had a health issue. He was mirroring my thoughts. I had a serious health issue a year down the road when I was 61. And it took me 2 years to take charge of that. But using my willpower, I went through all of that. And I still made the daily progress. The sound mind and sound body, daily exercising, discipline for the mind and discipline for the body. Please keep a big note of that. My book covers all these aspects in terms of the whole point is it's like this. My book is written from first person to second person. I expect you to see me in a mirror. So that's exactly the way in which the book has been structured. The moment you see it, you see yourself going through that experience. But first, it doesn't make much sense. But as you progress, look back at it, then you'll know that, yes, indeed, this is exactly what he said we should avoid. And why don't we avoid that and reduce the number of errors that we make? There is a difference between just passing and getting good grades. Quite a few of this was reflected in today's morning lecture. You have to do subjects like research methodology and quantitative methods, no compromise. Please learn it thoroughly. If you learn it thoroughly, you will do the entire process well. Your models will hold together. Your data will be correctly analyzed. Your questionnaire will be correctly designed. But if you just pass with grace marks, you will get stuck. You will start wondering why am I not making progress? You will get frustrated. So please pay attention to the coursework. Anna University has simplified the coursework. So there's a big blessing. They have structured the coursework in tune with that particular discipline. So therefore, that itself is a good starting point. Do that subject well. And don't worry about grades. Grades are a reflection of how well you have, absorbed the lessons that are taught in the various classes. Identifying a topic and writing a proposal is very rigorously is important. Topic and the title. I'll dwell a bit on that. The book has got a lot of material on how to choose a topic and how to word the title. Work on a legible and settled handwriting. You see, when I was young, my father made me go through alphabet, big alphabet, small alphabet, third alphabet and fourth alphabet. And I always used to top the class in terms of legibility of handwriting. But I'm sure many of you are Tamil speaking people. Because of laptop, WhatsApp and what have you. It's a big challenge. So you need to choose the right quality of pens and exercise before you write your examinations. This has not come out well. This is about 50, 60 years back or whatever, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose had written a letter. If you see the actual presentation, you will see how legible and structured his handwriting, like a typewriter. A PhD is a starting point of research. It is not the end point of research. Focus, take a study, identify a scope, narrow the scope, and go deep into it. That's what a PhD is all about. A PhD adds acute knowledge to already made discoveries. See, people, that's why Professor Velraj talked about don't start from the foot, start from the shoulder. We live in a world where so many discoveries have already been made. And that is why you need to do a deep literature review. When you do a literature review properly, you know what has been done. And when you identify a gap for doing research, there should be no doubt whatsoever that your topic is well worth it. Split the task, look at the next milestone, and work towards reaching that next milestone. Now, when you do literature review, you got to do some intelligent searches. See, you get good articles even in the first search. Things like Google Scholar, it itself gives you a lot of good articles. All right, you have journal aggregators. Your institute of affiliation will give you a whole lot of journal aggregators. You can get good articles there as well. And a good method is that when once you hit a good article, you see the references given below. That's an intelligent way to do a search. You get very good articles. If somebody does a research in a journal and publishes an article in a journal, the articles that that person refers to is a very rich ground for doing your literature review and choosing articles. Deep web is of course another source, but don't go headlong in collecting a whole lot of articles. And when you collect an article, please ensure that you capture the essence of the article. Some articles you have to read it cover to cover, fully. Some articles you need to read the abstract or introduction, the conclusions, the findings, the limitations, and then document it. The moment you see an article, have the discipline to document it, number it, and put it in separate folders. If you just keep it like that and say that I'll come back and do it, it never happens. So therefore, even literature review is a very disciplined process. The chosen study has to be unique and not found duplicated from an earlier study. Now, when you justify a gap or opportunity for doing research, it is not enough to say that so-and-so article has found and recommended that this gap is well worth doing research. It's not enough. Please understand, even the most cited articles can get challenged. If there is a theory, there will be a counter theory. So that's what research, the beauty of research is that they're trying to see how deep you can go and how your own authenticity, your own authorship comes in the way in which you do yours. That's what they are testing. They're not looking for China, India, and huge big things like that. They want to judge whether you're able to go through the process, a robust process. So therefore, you have to justify your scope by looking at a variety of articles and say all these articles together point out to the fact that there is an opportunity to do research in this area. And hence I've chosen this area. So that is how your literature review should end like that. And then say a good dissertation will have at least 250 good articles. I had 400 articles. I had to drop about 100, which were not worth it. Because as you do literature review, some will be substandard. You may have to drop them. Now, the topic, the importance of the topic. Please understand, English is the gold standard for all disciplines, be it engineering or science or health or whatever. The terms have been adapted and used in technology and engineering and science and so on. So if you're going to confuse English language and not understand the terms as a research term, as a research keyword, you'll be making mistakes in which you put your title. So my title, for instance, reads like this: the influence. That's a keyword. Now, those people who are in social sciences can understand, but even other engineering subjects, people can understand. If I change the word influence to relationship, everything changes. My research method will change, my data analysis method will change, everything will change. So don't use terms blindly. The influence of customer perceived ethicality. See, customer perceived ethicality is a social sciences concept. It means how a customer looks at a company. The ethical practices of a company. How does he look at the ethical practices of a company? That is an independent variable. Right? Now, that's a social sciences concept. On the other hand, there is a business concept called the brand. On brand affect, perceived quality, and brand equity. The equity is a dependent variable. Now, other two are called mediating variables. Right? So now, this is how the topic is titled. And I'm now defining a scope called a study of corporate service brands in India. If you remember, Dr. Velraj told in the morning also, that the moment you say, he used some two keywords and said people will get interested in that. So what am I studying? I am studying service brands. Not goods, but service brands. Like health, like Apollo, like Amazon Retail. I had 31 brands in my study in 6 categories. Service brands. Where? In India. The scope gets defined. The title defines everything. So defining a title using good keywords, the correct keywords, anticipating the data analysis method is a smart way of identifying a topic and a title. So this is a very important subject. If you read my book, you will get to know, understand much more than what I am now telling you in this short time of 40 minutes. This kind of subject requires a whole day or 2 days, but in the limited time, I am trying to communicate what best I can. Now, there are 4 types of variables: the independent variable, the dependent variable, the mediating variable, and the moderating variable. Now, make a note of these types of variables, go through literature, try to understand more. If you read my book, it's a compendium of everything together. So it gives you a good start. And then what to look for. Then you can go deeper and understand the subject much more. And if you're doing research in my type of area, or even in science and related areas, there is what is called a model, a conceptual model. A conceptual model has all these 4 variables, or maybe 3 variables. Do not identify complex models, because there is a famous person, statistics professor, from whom I have learnt a lot. He told why a complex model can never be justified. There is what is called model fit. The model will never fit together if you have a complex model. Why? Because Indian data is inaccurate. So these are the challenges. When you start collecting data, it looks very simple in the beginning. When you collect data, you start finding the limitations. So always when you choose a title also, please anticipate. What is it going to lead me to? What are the likely findings? And then you get back to your title. It's an iterative process. It's a smart, intelligent process. So do not have too many variables in your model. Okay, now this is very important in social sciences and business. There is a concept and a construct. Okay? Now, for instance, a brand is a concept. Everybody understands brands, right? A brand is a concept. But brand affect, brand alone cannot be subjected to any type of research. But when I talk about brand equity, brand salience, brand loyalty, brand affect, brand trust. By the way, I've highlighted this in my book also. At the age of 60, I worked for 20 years with brands, but I did not know the difference between brand affect and brand trust. I'm very happy I did my PhD. So that is when I started understanding that these two terms are so different. An author called Chowdhury has identified the scale items for brand trust as different from brand affect. I have created some very humorous memes to illustrate this point also. So therefore, whatever field you are doing research in, you got to understand each term as a research term. It is the same thing. 3 centuries back, whatever was done in laboratories, the same concepts have been brought into other areas of research as well. This is very important. I must have learnt from hundreds of people by networking. And I used to get stuck in many points. I got stuck even in my last point. But I met a lady who had just finished her PhD in IIT saying, "Sir, that what you're doing is not mediation." I got a shock of my life. But mediation was central to my research. If I did not do my mediation correctly, I wouldn't have got my results. She opened my eyes, and believe me, that is when I started looking at the YouTube. I'll come to that. Enlarge the circle of experts for consultation and course correction. Your supervisor alone cannot answer all your queries. The supervisor is also like you. So please respect his time or her time and respect your time also. If you have a dozen questions, write them. And then when you write the questions down and when you ask the questions, you will be respected. for the fact that you value your time as well as the supervisor's time. Become an expert in analyzing your data. I have written the bitterness I went through in trying to depend on outside experts. And when somebody opened my eyes saying, sir, you can do your own data analysis, that was a turning point in my research. So therefore I decided that I learn all methods of data analysis myself, and mine is a very quantitative technique called structural equation modeling. I went through several classes, online classes. It was COVID time, several online classes, and then the YouTube was a big help. So become an expert in analyzing data and do not depend on outside experts. The researcher is the sole master of his craft, not the guide, not the outside expert, not anybody else. So when you go and meet anybody, recommend what you like to do. Don't say, sir, what can I do? Recommend, saying that, should I do this or that? That's a healthy way of respecting the relationship. It's a symbiotic, mutual relationship. There's an ocean of knowledge to be acquired by understanding how to deploy the YouTube. I became an expert in searching YouTubes. I must have gone through hundreds of YouTube, and believe me, I got 2 YouTubes, just 13 minutes each. It gave me exactly what is mediation analysis, how to make the report, where I was going wrong, everything fitted in place. So YouTube please become an expert in using the YouTube as well. Now, publishing. Rejection is a part of the process. I got 20 rejections. I don't want you to get 20. If I do my research today, I may probably get away with 5 or 6. So that's a big learning. So the reasons why I got rejects. Publishing is not a perfect system. All right? So don't expect to go in a perfect world when you go about doing publishing. It's the toughest part. It's a necessary step. Don't crib. It's good. It's like making men out of boys. It makes you robust when you get published. Studies should be strong on concept, on framework, on methodology, analysis tools, and the novelty of your findings. So there are things like journal finders. It makes a perfect marriage between what you want to do and which journal really values your article. So therefore, you got to be intelligent in doing that. When I started uploading first, I thought I'll do it in an hour. Believe me, I started at 3 p.m. and it took me until 8:30 p.m. to do my first upload. Because whether it is Elsevier or whatever, Emerald or whatever it is, each of them have their own standards. You got to go through the grind, understand what they require, adapt your language terminology to them, and go about uploading. What is the difference between a dissertation and a journal article? A dissertation is about bringing in the right perspective, annotating and illustrating to make a powerful point, allowing for elaboration. Elaboration is your own thing. It is your authorship. Somebody else may not do the way you do it. A journal article is about being frugal. Journals have to manage their overall size. Okay. They have to manage their overall size. So you cannot have more than a 20, 25. In fact, my first article was 12,000 words. I cut it short to 6,000. That process was a painful process, but it's a learning process in terms of knowing how to make the same point with frugality. Rejections are an inevitable part of getting published. You got to go through a course on plagiarism and publishing ethics. It's a big ocean of knowledge in terms of understanding how plagiarism scores are decided. Your own teacher will tell you what are the different ways in which plagiarism scores can be managed. Now, combined references. See, do not use the same references over and over and over again. Combined references. You make a point, put all the references together, and then make the point. Your plagiarism score will come down. Even when you structure your tables, if you repeat the column description, your plagiarism score may go up. Your teacher will tell you all these things. Enlarge your own treatises, your own commentaries. Instead of using, within quotes, paraphrasing, plagiarism score will go up. It has to be edited many times. Whether it is a thesis or a journal article, you have to edit it several times before you get your intended plagiarism maximum score. So you got to really go through the grind. In fact, in my case, I lost a lot of valuable references. Then I realized I could have done a little differently. At that time, I didn't have time. I still have a regret. I bear a cross that I shouldn't have lost those beautiful references. The final report is a creative garland of hundreds of pearls we have discovered as well as created. Elaboration adds to the uniqueness and thoroughness of a presentation. A good dissertation should bring about an author's unique perspectives. First, the results and tables should be finalized. You got to decide, okay, I'm going to have 15 tables, 20 figures, and these are the things which have to be decided first. And then identify what goes into the main text and what goes into the appendices. So there are a lot of choices to make in this. You will, depending on which stage you are in, you will realize, oh, that's why I said, somebody can say, oh, okay, he's saying 211 lessons. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, I know all this. That's not learning. That's intellectualizing. Learning comes by what is called anubhuti, by experience. You go through the grind and that's learning. So these 211 points are learned by mistakes, others' mistakes, unintended mistakes, and so on and so forth. So that's real learning. All this you will learn automatically as to what kind of style format to use. So there should be consistency between your contents page and what goes in the main text. So paragraph, subtitles, etc., etc. You want to look at it several times and ensure that there is 100% error-free dissertation. Be 100% match between your references in the end and the referencing inside your dissertation. Now, the abstract, see, if your dissertation could be 300 pages, but your abstract is never more than 35, 40 pages. It's a good exercise to do because that tests your ability to have brevity and being frugal. It's a big task and it prepares you for your viva voce. A viva voce, you're not allowed more than 30, 35 minutes. Can you imagine? 4 years of work, you got to condense it in 30 minutes and not lose anything. So that skill is a big skill. It's much more difficult to do a lecture in 40 minutes than to do it in a day or two. Because you're anxious not to miss anything, right? So that challenge will come when your viva voce, if it has to go successfully, you got to go through the abstract. You got to go through, in a viva voce, have about 30, 40 slides. And I have given illustrations of how to hold the interest of the examiner in each of those slides, 30, 40 slides. Push the so-called unwanted in a hyper this thing. And if somebody wants it, you can always, go back to it. So that gives you an ability to manage time. In my case, I had the ability, I had no stakes at all. My dean asked me, oh, yes, Mr. Ravichandran, what's your career objective? He asked me. I said, sir, I am very pleased with what I've achieved in my life. So in my case, the goal and the means are one and the same, right? But I am privileged, not all of you. You have a career in front of you. But since I had that emotional advantage, if you know what I mean, I could take the attitude that I am really not bothered about the result. If it happens, it happens. So I was able to give 100% in the effort. Now, how much time I have? 5, 10 minutes at least? As per, I think 10 minutes. 10 minutes. It'll take half a minute for drinking water. See, we already talked about the need to state research gaps succinctly. Learn what each of these terms means. This is very critical. In the case of a business, what they do is they also have what is called a business problem. It's a huge description of what is happening. What are the pain points? And then comes the research problem. It's again a highly descriptive thing, giving the entire scope of what the research problem is. And then the research questions. A research problem cannot be researched, but the research questions can be researched. But when you turn them into objectives, I've illustrated in my book, citing references, they become absolutely researchable. The research design is nothing but the plan in which once I have decided what I want to do, the research design is a choice of how I want to actually go about doing it. It's a logistics of doing your research. Now again, in the case of social sciences and in the case of businesses, you have to classify it as an exploratory and or quantitative. Descriptive research can be with a data collection at a single point of or a longitudinal one. Causal and experimental. See, causal and experimental, most of your engineering experiment, you will have to set up an experiment in the case of engineering. Have a control group, have an experimental group, make comparisons. The whole methodology, analysis method changes when you go from a descriptive to a causal investigation. Now, there are 4 types of non-probability and 4 types of probability sampling methods. But typically in India, there is a non-probability method called the snowball sampling. It approximates a random sampling under certain conditions. You will learn about all that. Now, questionnaire design is like, for example, can I measure a grinding machine tolerance with a scale or a vernier calipers? I cannot. So there is a least count. It doesn't happen. Likewise, in social sciences, a cutting edge questionnaire requires a lot. I took about 6 months to finalize my questionnaire. Went through several iterations. The questionnaire design is a huge subject by itself. It cannot be just like that, borrowed from somewhere and put together. So it is like saying, if I don't have the correct instrument, I cannot have the correct measurement. Even if I do, for instance, when I dispatch some items from one company to another, they talk about 3 parts of the measurement: the measuring instrument, the measuring person, and the environment in which it is measured. Everything is perfect, both at my end and the customer end, but it doesn't match. So therefore, this is what we talk about as reliability. So a reliable measuring system is one in which, both in terms of time and both in terms of who does the measurement, it does not vary. The testing method is robust and reliable. So reliability and validity are other things which we need to look at in terms of your data, right? Now, this is a very specific thing. Like we go with measurement scales in an engineering situation, likewise in social sciences and business as well, there are what are called scales. The measurement scale is, we talk about latent variables and measurable variables. For instance, heat. Is it measurable? It is not measured. Heat and cold. You can't measure heat and cold. But you talk about temperature, can you measure it? You can. Because it has got a particular grade. There's no question of negative and positive. So therefore it is measurable. So again, in social sciences, what they do is the latent variables. Like for instance, I use the construct called customer perceived ethicality. It cannot be measured. It's a latent variable. If you ask somebody what is your customer perceived ethicality, he will not know. But there is a way in which you can develop scales. You can measure each of those. And when measured together, the latent variable gets measured. So that is how the model, the conceptual model, is conceived in that framework. So these are all very specific learnings. Another thing is in a questionnaire design. See, nobody has time more than 25 minutes to fill up your questionnaire. So therefore, if you have a complex model of more than 6 variables, you'll have hell. So you cannot have more than 5 to 6 variables, and each variable cannot have more than 3 to 5 scale items. So your questionnaire will have what? 25 items, 24 items. So it is easier to get data in that manner. So you've got to be very smart when you do your questionnaire design. And always justify your methodology. Somebody can question your methodology. The examiner will be impressed if you justify saying, this is why I chose this method. These are all very difficult subject. It take a long time to go through this subject, so I'm skipping it and moving forward. As I said, a cutting edge questionnaire is vital. Accurate designing of the questionnaire on the one hand, and collection of the data on the other. The data collection is a very, very smart exercise. Okay, there is what is called smart sampling, reducing sampling error. So, the way in which the statements are constructed. For instance, the word I have pleasure in using something, or I have positive feelings. has totally different context in India and the United States. If you use the same term in India, people get confused. So therefore, in my questionnaire, I had to do an expert check to see whether the items have, the description has to be changed to define the same thing. So there's a lot of things in it. So there is a formula for identifying the correct, see, what is the idea of a sample? Whatever you find in the sample, you have to draw conclusions to a larger population that you define. So if you define your scope saying that, look, I want to draw conclusions about what is happening in Anna University. That's your universe. Your sample has to be good enough for the entire Anna University to deploy it. As simple as that. So your research methodology books will tell you exactly how to calculate the sample size, be it a longitudinal study or a single multiple cross-sectional study. There are what are called sample and non-sample errors. It's a big subject again. I come to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your patience. So, incidentally, two minutes about my book. So, the way I looked at my book as a marathon run, and as a marathon run. So, this is a creative cover design where the marathon runner is not giving up until he goes to the finishing line. So, that's the spirit of this particular book. I had a very pleasant experience in IIT. I went to invite Professor Kamakoti for a get-together. He is not there, unfortunately. But I was pleasantly surprised. He invited me the next day to deliver a valedictory session for there is I think they call it ISSR or something like that. There's a job fair where all the research scholars across the country get together, 600 of them. I had just 20 minutes to prepare, 20 hours to prepare. It was a Sunday, 30th of March. I had a fantastic experience. And Professor Kamakoti fell in love with my book and got me to sign an autograph for his daughter who had just finished her PhD in computer science and awarded 30 copies of my book to the best presenters. So it was a great experience in terms of the fact that an academic is able to see the value of what I have created. So these 211 lessons are like mantras. A mantra is not something which can be read and kept away. It has to be experienced. So I request all of you to benefit from, as Professor Velraj said in the morning also, learn from others' mistakes. And that will help you to cut short the time that you do to complete your PhD in time. I once again wish you all the very best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing your wonderful PhD journey. I hope all the scholars you would have benefited through his lecture. So you just kindled my PhD period. So where to start, how to write a research paper, because we struggled a lot to upload the article. Because uploading the article very first time in our career, that itself give lot of experience. Many rejection of our paper, like which gives more insight where we committed mistake and how to improve or how to bring more quality in the paper, right? So these are, we need to take it as a positive aspect. If you get rejection of paper, right? So that gives, like as he said, that is definitely going to fine tune your thesis, right? You can definitely, with more confident, you can able to deal your vivas, right? So always accept. If you get the paper, if your paper got rejected, you accept the comment. See, sometimes we get some negative, though the data is given in the paper, if it is correct. Sometimes because of some politics, we get some the rejection, right? Nothing wrong. You can defend. You defend whatever the comment given by the examiner, reviewer. You can defend it. It was happened because Professor Velda sir paper got. Because I was closely associated with Velda sir, one of his paper got rejected, and he strongly wrote a letter to the journal editor stating that whatever the reviewer points, right, these are all absolutely wrong because we have strong evidence for our claims. So after sending a reply letter to the editor understood the impact of his the Velda sir reply, and the paper again sent to the another reviewer, and finally it got published. Right? So we need to take always the positive notes from whether it is accepted. projected, right? Definitely that will fine tune our research part. So with these words, I thank once again Dr. Ravichandran sir for his valuable insight about his PhD.